Right, thank you for staying with us again. Before the break, we're talking about some chess developments in Kenya, chess versus education. Right now, let's talk about something different. And for this it's a game called KHO. And if you remember back when you were young, playing police and robber, or basically police and robber. Now imagine a whole, my director says chamaman chababa, quote unquote. Imagine a whole professionally kind of game and a whole federation-backed kind of game. The Secretary General of that particular game, called KHO, was in Kenya, and particularly in Kenyatta University. And we had a chance to talk to him, listen to that particular conversation.
On the sports show, we are joined by very special guests. Kindly introduce yourself, sir.
Jambo, Kenyatta University. My name is Rohit Haudania. I'm from UK and I'm representing the International KHO Federation, where I serve the community as the General Secretary.
Currently being affiliated to KHO as the General Secretary, kindly tell us the history of the sport and basically a snippet of what KHO is all about.
KHO is a deeply indigenous and traditional sport which originated in India. Today the game is being played across Africa, across Asia and in parts of Europe. The game is a game that can be played anywhere. It's a game of tag, and I guess it's something that comes very instinctively to the child. That's why it's a very common playground game.
So kindly tell us the status of KHO as at now in the international scene.
So in 2020, we held the first international KHO coaching camp in New Delhi. Over there, 16 countries were represented by 50 coaches. And that was where we began to develop our coaching so that they could take the sport to their countries and start to develop the sport further. Really proud to see that Kenya actually powered throughout lockdown. And today, we're at Kenyatta University, the game's being played in Kenya, and the coaches are doing a fascinating job. We're working towards our first KHO World Cup, and that's going to be our first milestone. We've represented the sport at the International Olympic Association to get a feel of what it would take to make it an Olympic sport.
So basically, what is the purpose of your visit in Kenya in as far as KHO is concerned? Kindly expound to the viewers more on that.
So we've come to Kenya to hope for a potential venue for a future World Cup. We see that the Kenyan community, one, they're brilliant at taking on sports. Two, they're brilliant athletes. So it will be no surprise to see Kenyans actually performing really well in this sport. My purpose for the visit is to try to support the Kenyan committee with governance, provide some workshops on financial sustainability and digital marketing. They're doing a fascinating job led by Mr. Jacob. You've got Mr. Simon and a really solid team who are doing a tremendous job. I can't commend them enough. And coming to Kenya, it's been beautiful so far.
And at any point or time, did you ever play KHO? And if so, did you ever get to win any personal accolades with both you or your team? Kindly tell us.
So I started playing KHO growing up, mostly watching my dad whilst he was coaching teams across UK. Mr. Bridge Haudania is credited with founding the KHO Federation of England. So I had the early on exposure, but it was only when I was 16 where I started to play it a bit competitively. Now KHO is like a pure sport, it helps you with your other sports. And so I began playing it. We've won some of the national championships within the UK. We've also been involved in organising the first international KHO tournaments, where we took a team to India for a series which is now over 4 million views on YouTube. Really impressive, and the game, it's loved by millions. It's a sleeping giant of the sports world. I myself have been a player. I love playing the sport, and I represented Mandatha Wembley Warriors, and that was my thing. But later, growing up, I had to get more involved with the organising of tournaments and providing the opportunities for younger players who are taking really well to the game.
Did you ever get to win any accolades, maybe cups?
So we won the national championship, but against the Indian team, they are very skilled at this game. Like I said, it's an indigenous sport to India, and the level of skill, because there's a lot of complexities within the game, it's deeply strategic. It's often compared with chess. That's how tactical the game can be. But regarding my personal game, I wouldn't say I've touched a percentage of what some of the Indian players are capable of, but within the England Federation tournaments, I've held my own, yeah.
So what is your view on Coco's scene in Kenya?
As mentioned, it's a sport that is one, deeply athletic, and Kenyans, your accolades within running are plentiful, and so I think Kenyans are picking up this sport really, really quickly. Like, take this coaching session over here at Kenyatta University. Coach Simo's just started this session about 20 minutes ago, and I've got players shouting "core." I've got players not making fouls. This is rare, and I'm actually really excited to see how this sport will develop in Kenya and how Team Kenya will perform at international tournaments.
So finally, what do you hope to achieve during your tenure as the Secretary General of Coco?
The vision is to hold the world's first Coco Cup, which is a big achievement for us. Ultimately, we want the sport to stay true to its nature. It's a grassroots game that can be played anywhere. It's a game that can be played everywhere. All you need is 2 poles, and very little equipment is required to get started. So I just want to share that love for Coco. It's a fun sport. It's a team sport. It's great for team collaboration. So in my view, it's to help towards the first World Cup, but then towards getting the sport recognized by the Olympic Committee. And we've started that journey so far.
So to any prospective Coco players out there, what's your advice to them, or essentially anyone who is interested in the sport?
My first tip is breathe. This game is about breathing. You need to take your time, you need to control your breath. That's the first step. Secondly is to use your mind. You can be the fastest player, but on a Coco ground, some skillful players, in front of them, your speed won't do as much justice. Finally, it's teamwork. This game is all about collaboration. Sachin Tendulkar, great cricketer from India, he himself credited this sport for its the way that it develops a team, and you're forcing another person in your team to create the point for you. So work as a team. You're working on your teamwork. Forgot what the second point was, but first one was to breathe. So make sure you're breathing.
So thanks a lot. Once more on set, I'm joined by a Coco Sport veteran. Kindly tell us your name, sir.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my name is Simon Bogwa. I'm a coach. Yeah, trained in Coco. I've been a player, and right now serving as the Vice President, Kenya Coco Federation. Yeah.
So Coco being an upcoming sport, kindly tell us what Coco is all about, the history of the sport, and just give us a highlight of everything to do with Coco.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, well, Coco, as you hear it being echoed, is an indigenous sport that originated from India, has been played in the long, far years in history as one of the traditional sports within the Indian festivals, and now got its peak to be played as a sport within the schools, the institutes, and in the universities in India, and also has gotten to spread into Europe and other continents in the world. Yep.
So what are some of the rules that are employed on this game? Just give us a highlight of that.
Good. Well, Coco is very simple because ideally Coco is one of the sports that you find we don't have any equipment to play with, so the rules tend to be very easy. The equipment, like I would say we use, are the 2 poles in a layout which measures 27 by 16 and 23 by 14 for the juniors, the sub-juniors rather, of which the 2 poles are the turning ground when players are playing. We have the chasers who tend to be squatting in the middle of the layout on a region called the chaser block. Yeah, the players who squat in the middle of the layout at the center line are called the chasers, and those that are being ran after are called the defenders. Okay? So getting up to that, it brings us to the other bit of understanding the layout. The layout has like double lines where the chaser block is, and they stretch all the way to the far end of the line called the end line. And the two lines are called the cross lanes. We have like 8 of them on the layout, of which at the end of the layout, where the pole stands, is a region called the free zone. The free zone is basically a region where we call it the turning region, where you can either do the turning going around the pole or either doing a receding, like detaching yourself from the layout, maintaining the same face, and going back to the layout.
So, Mr. Mbogo, being the Vice President of the KHO Federation,
Yes.
kindly tell us of the status of the sports in the country.
Thank you. Basically, what I would say according to KHO in our country, we have gotten the opportunity at least to register it as a federation, whereby we are also affiliated to the International Federation, of which it has our headquarters in UK. And we are lucky to be having our Secretary General on a visit to Kenya currently. I think you maybe have met him in the first interview. And in Kenya, we are really lobbying for the sport being at least, minus being registered with the Ministry of Sport, to have county associations whereby we can have counties embrace the sport, and then we give the extension to the institutes. Because KHO as a sport is played by all, either from the young age to the old age, that we can have it as an extra curriculum in schools. Yes.
So, are there any active leagues that are currently in progress that
sure.
are affiliated to KHO?
True.
And if so, kindly tell us more about that.
Well, basically, I'll not call them leagues, but we have series. The series have been happening concurrently within the weekends on Sundays, because you notice like the clubs we have are merged by youths from the community, of which you might find some are engaged with work but are available over the weekends. So what happens is like we set up series amongst the few clubs we currently have in the country, and they also set up a challenge which is played on a competitive level for trophy beat and also for the bit of expressing more of the interest of KHO and expanding it to the whole communities at large. Yes.
So we can presently see that you've visited Kenyatta University. Is it an initiative to spread the sport all across the universities? Or what exactly are you aiming at?
It gives me a smile to have a feeling of KU, because I know it as a champion institute when it comes to sports. And my thought and my thinking would be, having KHO land in KU, I'll be setting maybe a standard rink or layout for KHO, whereby we can do inter-universities. If the chancellor gets to see this, or the sports department, they gonna embrace it. Like if you notice, it includes a very simple layout of 27 by 6, as I mentioned earlier, of which it can be played either on grass surface, on the synthetic mats, on sand, on muddy ground, and at least we have KHO everywhere. Okay. Sure.
So where do you see the sport in the next 5 years or so in the Kenyan scene?
Oh, nice. I think I would take you back to not more than 5 years. We are currently looking forward to hosting the World Cup. So that will be a big achievement for us, because we already have shown that we have the capacity to hold the World Cup in our country, and we really have good, talented players with us, of which some of them got the opportunity to be cited by the international body, that they can get the opportunity to play the Ultimate League, which is a league played in India that is very, I would say, mind-blowing to any athlete who would love to know more about KHO.
Mr. Mbogo, what are some of the challenges that you face in your quest to popularize the sport, especially at grassroots level in the country?
Well, basically we have been having the challenge of fields. You notice KHO being a new sport, we have not been having grounds where it could like be played in the stadiums. And with that, I would love to send an appeal to at least the Ministry of Sports. As they do something with the stadiums, we would be so much obliged to see a KHO layout set somewhere, whereby at least even though we want to express much of what we do with the sports of KHO, at least we can have somewhere. Going back to the county level and the mitaani, if there would be a consideration at least to have a set bit of pitches, like whereby a new sport can get the ground, it will be so good because we don't have to like work like where we started. We started playing Coco on reserved grounds, of which like now in other regions you find the road has started, been marked, and eventually the ground is off. So having a site whereby we can have the layouts could give us a thumbs up, man.
So in terms of capacity building, so are you training coaches or any staff in as far as the sport is concerned?
Oh, sure. Well, basically we already have done so. We have like had quite a number of trainings, and we have teachers within institutes who have gotten the concept of Coco. We have players who have also shown the interest of not mine as being at least a player. They can officiate a match as referee, as an umpire, and at least that gives us a plus because we as coaches, the 3 that are only certified by the international body, we are not enough to serve the entire country. So we are trying to spread out the knowledge to the many who are willing to take the whole bit about Coco, and at least we can be mentoring them from the sideline as we see what good they do.
Finally, reading from your optimism, we can be able to see the sport growing in future. So any words of advice for any Coco enthusiast or anybody who wants to venture in this sport?
Good. Well, I would say you never go wrong when you jump in. We never go wrong when you jump into a new sport, and we have a bright future for Coco. Coco is an unifying sport because having our Indian community in Kenya as an added tribe in the country, they hold the bit of having at least the know-how of playing Coco. So we are trying to unify it to all tribes in the country in the bit of not having any segregation of anyone, but at least unify all to play Coco. Either you are the Maasai, either you are from the coast, either you are from the north as a Turukana, good to go. Coco is for everybody, and Coco can be played anywhere. That's the deal.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mbogo.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, sure.